Alessandro Masnaghetti, joining us from Italy. Alessandro is going to show us his new website. We're going to take a really great deep dive into a number of crus of Barolo with detail like you've never seen before. And I mean, this site is just amazing. It's such an incredible resource for all of us who love Barolo. Alessandro, I don't know where you find the time to do all this stuff, but thank you for creating the website. Thanks for being here today to walk us through it. How's it going in Italy right now?
Sorry, the last one.
How's it going in Italy?
Oh, it's quite good, except for the virus for everybody.
Small
But
little thing.
it's nice weather, and maybe in Barolo is raining too much in the last week. But anyway, we will see what happens in September, and maybe I don't think that they will harvest in October.
They won't have a harvest in October?
I don't know. I don't think so. I believe that they will harvest in September. I'm quite sure. It depends on the weather, of course, but the vintage is very, very precocious everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people started to harvest Merlot now in August. So,
Exactly. No, it's crazy.
Anyway, thank you so much, Antonio, for this opportunity. And hello, everybody. I'm here. If you have questions, I can try to answer. Okay.
You can answer them, I'm sure. But that's a good point, Alessandro. I always forget, but one of the main reasons why we created this webinar series is to have, bring people together, obviously, in a time of a lot of uncertainty. But the goal is to make these really interactive conversations. So please give us your questions, and we will weave them into the conversation as we go. And but I'm going to start, Alessandro, by asking why did you create? Maybe you can put up the website and show us, but so we can see it visually. But why did you create this website?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this website since 2017, something like this, because in my mapping project, the images has always been very important. The US reader maybe don't know what I have done 15 years ago, but I want you to show, because as you know, I published at that time a newsletter called, a wine tasting newsletter called Enogea, and I started to publish this picture. Oh no, I have to share a video.
I have to share your screen.
Without the screen. It's difficult. Share.
Because the first maps you did were really like in the early 90s of Barbaresco was the first one, right?
Yeah, sure. But my first map was in 94 with the Barbaresco. But then in 2005, I started to publish this small picture inside the newsletter. This is, for example, a picture of Barbaresco of the side of Roccalini. So the idea is more or less the same, as you can see. Okay, you have a picture of the hillside and the name of the different vineyard inside this hill, and maybe other people knows my first app that I produced for the iPad in 10 years ago, something like this. And this is an evolution of the first image, because the first images were black and white, of course. And this is in color. And this is a picture of Arborina, And
so what we see right now is the website, Alessandro. We don't see it. What we see right now is the website.
Non ho capito, dimmi.
Quello che vediamo adesso è il sito, no?
No, it's not the website. This is a picture taken from my first app about La Mora cruise that was published 10 years ago. And this is a beautiful picture. It's a picture with the snow. But as in the first picture, in black and white picture, the problem is that you cannot place the crew in the context. Of course, you can see here, up there, you can see La Mora, you can see Rocchette Vino and Roccaglie there, but that's all. And because at that time, there were no technical tools to make 360-degree images, And that's why when this tool came to the market, I started to think about this new project, and let me show you.
Yeah, so what we see, Alessandro, just so you know.
This is the website.
This is the website, yeah.
This is the website. And for example, we go in the MGA section, and we can see the Arborina that I show in the website. So you have, for example, two images with the producer and with the boundary of the crew. Yeah. And if you look at the image, you can say, okay, it's not so different. Yes, it's a better picture compared to the first one that I used in the iPad, but it's more or less the same. What is the difference? Is this one. If you drag the image, you can place the crew in the context of the area. And this, for me, is really, really, really important, because you can see all the crews that are around. You can see Bricco San Biagio, you can see the Verduno, and you can see even the other side of the valley. Okay, that now you can understand perfectly that Arborina is facing Castiglione Falletto, because here you have Parussi, Montanello, Monprivato, Altenasso, and this
Alessandro, I have to ask you to do me a favor.
Sorry?
I have to ask you to do me a favor. I think you've had a lot of Cokes today. You're talking really fast.
I'm moving too fast.
Oh, yeah, you have to move that cursor a little more slowly, because not all
okay. I've tried to force myself to make it slowly, but
for you, I'm not enough. ABC, but for us, it's a lot of information. So it'd be good if you just slow down a little bit.
But what is important is that in this way, the user is in an active position. Okay, he can choose what he wants to see, what he wants to do. Okay, because as you know, this picture are made with a drone, of course, and as you know, and up until now, the drone are widely used in the wine world, you know, to make very, very nice video. Okay, but the problem of this video is that, first of all, many times lacks of information is only a way to show the beauty of the landscape, and that's all. And even when you have information inside the video, the problem is that you have to look at the video for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then when the video is finished, you have to go back on the timeline to see where the information that that is important for you is. Okay, and this is after 1, 2, 3 times, it's become frustrating, and that's why I've decided not to use the video. Maybe in the future, with some future upgrades, I will place some small video inside each sheet of the MGA, because in some cases the video is useful to see. For example, in the Ravera, I cannot show you the small video that I have, but I will publish in the next month. And this video is it's very, very simple, because the drone take off and then go up, and you can see perfectly the Bricco Pernice that makes a boundary between true boundary between the southern section of the appellation and the northern section. Okay, but it's the video. I want to use the video only for these particular cases. In all the other cases, I want that why don't turn? It's not turning anymore. Okay. What I want, that the user must be curious. You have to use this. Of course, I like if he read all the information there. Okay, but when he learned all the information there, he has to start to use the website and say, okay, this is Bricco San Biagio. I can zoom in and see something more. And oh, I didn't know that Ruggeri is there, very, very near to Arborina. So this is very, very important to me. And this is the idea, the first idea. The second idea behind this website is that a lot of people in the last year ask me every time to, okay, I would like to know the difference, talking about wines, the differences between an Arborina and a Rogeri wine, for example,
Okay.
or which is the style of the Arborina. Okay, you can use the word, you can try to explain these differences. But the best way, as you know, is to compare, is to taste the wine and compare the wines. Okay, this is why in each MGA, I've placed this recommended tasting and reference tasting. Okay, so the recommended tasting is a selection of the wines produced inside the MGA, not all the wines. And first, even more important, is that these are not the best wine produced in the MGA, but if you want to understand the wine, these are the best wine. Okay. Of course, you can compare the Arborina of Elio Altare with Renato Corino to see the different style, but it's much better to compare, for example, the Arborina from Elio Altare with the Cerretta of Elio Altare, because in this way you can see perfectly the differences between a wine from Serralunga and a wine from La Mora. And the quality is not important to me in this case. What I want to give to the reader is an educational tool. The quality, you know, maybe you prefer Elio Altare and I prefer Renato Corino. It doesn't matter in this type of the website, and that's it. But I maybe we have to. It's better to go back. I don't know how. Okay, and if you want, I can explain something about the structure of the website.
Yeah, so before we get into that, I'm just curious, maybe it's sort of a related question, but what is in the website that is not in the books, or how are the two different?
Oh, yeah, this is really important because this website is not made picking the information from the books and placing it into the website. So the website is not a copy of the books, only with the images added. Okay, is something completely new. For example, 90% of the text of each MGA is completely rewritten, rescritto.
Rewritten.
For the website, because when you have a book, you have a small 3D view of the crew, and what you can say is quite limited, you know, and what you can say is only about this 3D view, and that's all. Maybe it's something about the style, sometimes about the producer, and that's all. But when you have this kind of image, you are forced to explain something more and something else. And this is why I repeat, the text in 90% of the cases are completely new. And you have an estratto and excerpt from the geological map, for example. In the book, you have to go to the small geological map, see where Arborina is. Okay, this is Santa Agata Fossili Mars. It's quite complicated. Here you have the geological map ready to be read. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a more kind of put together as a reference. I think it might be interesting, Alessandro, just to explain a little bit what the MGAs are for people who maybe don't know.
I know. I know that you don't like this word. No, you don't like the word. The real word expression is menzioni geografiche aggiuntive.
Sounds like a food additive.
Sorry?
It sounds like a food additive, like a chemical and something.
Yeah, I know that for American user is something mysterious.
Yeah.
What does it mean? But it's very, very simple from our point of view. So it's this one is a particular piece inside of the appellation, okay, and it's, we can say it's like cru. It's like a cru in Burgundy or in Bordeaux or wherever, you know. So MGA is more or less equivalent to the cru. The difference between Burgundy and Piedmont is that there is no classification of the MGA. So all the MGAs, all these particular vineyard are on the same level. Okay, so no, there is no official classification that say that Brunate is better than Amborina or Monprivato is better than, I don't know, Fiasco. Okay, so the MGA is a cru, is a quite simple, is much more simple than the expression in Italian.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we cannot use the word cru, as I told you yesterday. And I give you the example of the first bottle of Barolo that were labeled with the name of the vineyard on. And in 61 or 64 or 67, you can find many bottles with the word cru canceled with a pen.
Yeah, because I've got them over there.
The printed label was Cru Busia. Yeah. And then came the French people and said, no, you cannot use the word cru. And so the producer take the label one by one and cancel the word cru, you know. And
I have those bottles, Alessandro.
Sorry?
I have those bottles, a lot of them from Bruno Giacosa from the 60s.
Uh-huh.
But they're all empty.
Yeah, this is unfortunate, but it's better that it's empty because you have enjoyed this bottle. Yeah. And just to go back to the text.
So Alessandro, I just want to say one thing, just so that everybody understands. When we look at your big map of Barolo, the big one, you see that in some places the MGA is, because what happened was the government gave each town the responsibility of delimiting their own MGAs. And so when we look at your big map, you see some towns like Serralunga, where the concept of the MGA is very similar to a French cru. They're pretty small pieces of land. And then in other villages, like Monforte being the most, the best example, the MGAs have been expanded and they're really not at all like a cru. They're like a whole, like a district. It's like saying, because when we look later at Busia and Ginestra, we're going to see big stretches of land that nobody would ever equate to the French concept of cru. It's really the whole, like a zone, basically.
Yeah, sure.
So it's the concept of MGA is very different. The way that the MGA is interpreted.
This is the only big issue with the MGA, in my opinion, with the MGA in Barolo is the problem is that they are not homogeneous. So you explained very well that Monforte went in a way and all the other villages went in another direction. So, but we, you know, I say every time we live, fortunately, we live in democracy. And when you live in democracy, this is one of the problems that people can do what they want.
I think we know a lot about that in the United States.
In my opinion, I agree with you. At the beginning of the MGA's history, you remember perfectly that there was a big case about the Canubi. Everybody was discussing about the Canubi, the difference between Canubi Boschis and Canubi, the historical Canubi Valletta. But in my opinion, this was not the real problem. The real problem was, and here's, as you said before, the difference between Monforte and all the other villages, and in particular between Monforte and Serralunga and Castiglione Falletto. But we will see later. But just to show you that this difference in extension you can see perfectly in the website as well. Because if you look at Arborina, you can see that is a small MGA, not the smallest one, but is a small one. And if you go to Busia, I go slowly. Okay. You can see perfectly how large is Busia. It's enormous, you know. So just to give you an idea, is Arborina is something like this. Okay. If you compare Arborina to Busia, okay, Arborina is very small. You can see that Busia goes from the valley up to the village of Monforte. So
yeah, Busia. How many hectares do you think that is, Busia?
Oh, you can see here in the technical. So the surface is 298 hectares. I don't know in hectares. You have to multiply by.
That's 3. About the size of a village like Von Romane or Chambon-Musigny. The entire village.
Absolutely, and you can see here. This is very important to me as well, because you have the explanation, you have the tasting, and then you have the final part, that the information is that in this case is exactly the same that you can find in the book, because in the book you can find the surface, the elevation, and the harvest period as well. The problem is that with the number, if you give only a number, you don't know if 298 hectares is a lot or not. Okay. And using this graphical diagram, you can see perfectly that the surface of Busia is one of the largest MGA. And if you go back to Arborina, you can see that using always the same, you can see that the surface is 10 hectares. Okay, and here you can see that 10 hectares means that inside the appellation, Arborina is a small one. And the same for the elevation, because if you are a beginner in the Barolo, you don't know that the highest point is Bricco del Dente and is 553. Okay. And then if you don't know this, if you don't have this information, for you 250 or 320, it's a lot, it's high, it's low, you don't know. But with this diagram, you can see that the elevation in the case of Arborina is in the lower part of the appellation. And this is very important as well.
Yeah, and you can see that if you drive by. You showed the in the beginning of this presentation, you showed Arborina divided by the growers.
Yeah.
And you can see that it's fairly low, low to middle. That's a really cool diagram. I think it'd be fun to show that again. The map of Arborina by the producers. Because I think that's, I think this is one of the, this is
very cool. This is very cool. I love it so much. I have to say, it's my baby, you know, not Arborina's the website, it's my baby. I have to say, to be honest, that in the website, not all the MGAs has a producer breakdown. At the moment, only the most important one has a producer breakdown, because as you know, to prepare an image like this one, it takes time. Okay, but my promise is that in the next month, periodically, I will add more of these images. For example, 2 days ago, I've added the Rocche dell'Annunziata breakdown.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to see now this one?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you one question, but don't forget about our projects. Don't just do this.
No,
With this project, I'm trying to convince you to make the same in US.
We are. We're going to do that. There's a question about that.
Problem is that we cannot fly now.
Maybe you could show this image, if you could center it a little bit more, Alessandro, so we could see the whole vineyard, because right now we see just the part.
The old vineyard of Arborina?
Yeah, Arborina, because right
I don't
now.
know. I don't know why it's so slow. Maybe it's the connection with Zoom. Okay.
Because right now we're seeing this backside, but I think it's fun to see the more frontal view, the one you showed in the beginning, the one that looks at Elio Altare.
Ah, okay. The iPad version, you say?
Well, I just think that that's
This
the
one?
view that most people will recognize from the road. You know, the view from the road.
So you mean this image?
The one with the producers of Arborina, but you had a view before where you could see it like you were driving, when you were driving on the road and you see the big Elio Altare piece with the house on top, that view.
No, I have no this image.
I saw it. We saw it. Or just show us the one you have, because I want to ask you. I think it's.
Let me go back to this image, maybe this one, because this is the road. But I have no image that see the vineyard from here to there.
Okay, so then what was the other one that you showed? The one that shows, because I think that this picture is a very good example of how diverse each crew can be, because you have this one exposure that looks towards the road, and then you basically have all four exposures. Well, you've got 3 out of the 4 exposures on this one vineyard, right, Alessandro? Because you have
inside the MGA, yes. You know, the big difference in Arborina is between this section here,
yeah,
and this one.
Exactly.
Because this one is facing east and this one is facing south, so it's quite different. I have to explain each map, each picture inside this website has a particular meaning, because if you look at the Arborina from this point in this way, you cannot understand that Arborina is a ridge. Okay.
Exactly.
That's why I have decided to take the picture from here, because you can see perfectly that there's a ridge.
Yeah.
Okay. And in many other cases, I have chosen the image to show what it is more important to me inside the crew.
Yeah, and so that cluster of houses there above the trees, that's Cascina Nuova. Yes,
this is we can zoom in a little bit. So this is Elio Altare. This one, this roof here is Mauro Veglio. This house here is the cellar of Renato Corino.
Yeah, your mouse is a little bit slow versus the zoom, but the big cluster of houses, for folks watching, the big cluster of houses, that's Cascina Nuova. And then right above it is Renato Corino.
This one is Renato Corino.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is Cascina Nuova.
There, that's better, yeah.
It's this one.
So that's
this is Borgata Pozzo. And here, this small house there is the house of Lorenzo Comasso, for example.
Lorenzo Comasso.
Yes.
Quite a character.
Yeah.
You know, the first time I went there, nobody cared about the wines. Nobody cared about anything. Now the guy's like a rock star. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know, yeah, it happens. It's the world of wine, you know.
It's the world of wine.
It changes.
It changes. That's good. Keeps us on our toes. Let's look at Rocche dell'Annunziata, because that's a really famous.
Yes, the new one.
I think it's one of the best vineyards in Barolo, and you have a beautiful map that breaks down the ownership there, and there's some really famous holders there: Scavino, Roberto Puerzo, Maria Teresa Mascarello, Corino.
So, first of all, in this case, I have decided to make a step-by-step view. So this is a view from Busia. So Rocche dell'Annunziata is quite far, but it's useful because you can see perfectly where Rocche dell'Annunziata is. So it's a ridge and is more or less parallel to Brunate and Cerrecchio. So it's the first crew in this beautiful series of crews. So you have Rocche, as I said before, Brunate, Cerrecchio, then you have Canubi here. Then if you go to the second image, this is a closer view taken from the road between La Morra and Castiglione Falletto. You can see here Bricco Rocca in the foreground here. And this is important because this is the subdivision, is not an official subdivision, is a traditional subdivision. Because the original, we can say, Rocche dell'Annunziata area is the yellow one, included this pale blue vineyard that is Vigna Rocchette from Accomasso, with the tree in the middle. There's one. Okay. Yeah. Then you have this part in green that usually is called Rocche di Costamagna, that you have not to confuse with the producer, Rocche Costamagna, okay? Because Rocche Costamagna is only a part of this area, okay? But traditionally, this upper part of the actual Rocche dell'Annunziata MGA was called Rocche di Costamagna, okay? So, and this is, everything is explained here in the text. And it's something, for example, that you cannot find in the book, okay? This is completely new. And this is a closer view taken from the Brunate region. And as you can see, Rocche dell'Annunziata is quite complicated. Now, a lot of producer. Yeah. So in the historical section, you have the main owner is Aurelio VII, because he has this long strip of vineyards right in the middle, beautiful position. Yeah. Then is a vineyard up there to the top of the hill, and a small vineyard here. Then you have Lorenzo Accomasso, as we see before, right in the middle up there with a tree here. This is Vigna Rocchette. Then you have Roberto Guercio here, that as the biggest part is here. Then he has a small part here to the boundary with Annunziata. Then we have Bartolo Mascarello here. And for example, about Bartolo Mascarello, just to go back to what we said before about Rocche di Costamagna and Rocche dell'Annunziata. For example, traditionally, this piece of vineyard for the Mascarello family was not Rocche dell'Annunziata, but was Torriglione. Yeah, it was considered Torriglione. And why I said this, because we have every time to be careful. We have to be careful when we listen to the story from the producer, because we have to know every time. Because we have to know the background. You know, it's not. I know that could be confusing for many wine lover, because Bartolo Mascarello said that it's Torriglione. Why is Rocche dell'Annunziata? It's normal. It's the tradition. At that time, there was no delimitation. And for example, in my opinion, it's difficult for me to call this vineyard Torriglione, because Torriglione is this one. Okay, you can see, right? Because this is the cellar of Trediberri, and here you have Mario Gagliasso. But all this vineyard is in my opinion, the real Rocche di Castiglione. But of course, the
real Torriglione.
The Torriglione vineyard. Yeah. And then you have the vineyard of Trediberri that I know that you like a lot. Here, okay, in very, very near to the Torriglione. Then you have this beautiful plot facing south near to the Renato Ratti vineyard. Yeah. And Paolo Scavino, for example, has a plot here and another one here near the road that goes to Borgata Pozzo.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, I don't know your opinion, but for example, I cannot see a big difference in wines between this area and this area. What's your opinion, Antonio?
Well, I can't either, but I think that it's also true that you would have to really taste the wines separately before blending to know for sure. Like Paolo Scavino, one of these two parcels was replanted.
Yes, this one, this small one.
Yeah, so
This,
you would
this
want
one
to
was
taste.
replanted.
You'd want to taste the fruit or the grapes from the wines before that's blended. You would want to taste Roberto Boercio's wines before they're blended. You know, Maria Teresa, she takes her grapes and co-ferments everything. So I think it's true when you taste the bottled ones, you don't see this massive difference, especially if you take a macro view as you do and you blow it out and you say compared to Monforte, compared to Serralunga.
Yes, but for example, if you compare Rocche di Costamagna with Gagliasso, the difference is not so big in my opinion. It's incredible. In my opinion, it's much more evident the difference between this area and the area of Boiolo, that is very, very close to the area of Rocche di Costamagna. But the big difference is between here and here.
Yeah.
Less between here and here, in my opinion.
I agree, but I don't think, I mean, I know I'm going to get crucified for this, but I don't think Boiolo, there's any great wines there.
You know,
Personally,
I agree. Usually, Briolo is a good wine. It's made on what we can call the evoluted soil, and you have the explanation about young soil, evoluted soil in the territory section. And I don't want to bore you with this explanation, but the soil in this case is the exposure is different, but the soil are very different here from here. So I believe that the difference between Boiolo and Rocca della Annunziata is mainly due to the kind of soil, not the formation. So not the difference between Sant'Agata laminated and Sant'Agata typical, but from the soil, the younger soil and evoluted soil. But I know this is, I want to go back just to show you, because this is a nice picture. Here is not, there is not the name, but I can tell you this is the Brunate vineyard, okay?
Yeah.
This is the Fontanazza, this is the Fontanazza hamlet. And this is, again, traditionally, Fontanazza is exactly on the border between Boiolo and Brunate. So why Brunate is not called Fontanazza? It was more reasonable to call them Fontanazza because the hamlet is Fontanazza. But traditionally, Fontanazza, it's all the name is always tied to this area, to the cooler area of this ridge. Okay, then you have here the Cerrecchio, the cooler part of Cerrecchio, and this one is the south-facing part of Cerrecchio. Okay, and down there, this one is the south-facing part of Sarmassa. This one, this small house here, is the house from Federico Scarzello. This is Vigna Merenda, okay? And if you turn again, you can see perfectly the ridge of Canubi, okay? The Canubi is on the left. You have the road here that goes up to the village of Barolo. This is Barolo. So Canubi is on the left of the road, okay? So all this part is Canubi. In this part, you have a part of Sarmassa here and Albarella here. But again, in this picture, you can see perfectly the structure the typical structure of the region of Barolo, that where you have a main ridge and all these tiny ridges parallel to each other. So you can see perfectly. You have the ridge of Montanello. You have the ridge that start with Altenaso that goes to Monprivato here. Then you have Fiasco here and Villero. Then you have Pugnane that goes up to Busia. Okay. Then you have this one, another ridge. This is a ridge inside Barolo. So you have Castellero, Vignane, and Zuncai, and here again the Busia area. And then you have the last ridge here, and is the ridge of Preda. This is the vineyard of Preda. Then is San Giovanni, and you go up to Bricco San Pietro here.
Yeah. I mean, these images are stunning. I wonder, Alessandro, we could spend I could spend hours talking to you about this, no question. Maybe we could look at we're going to look at Ginestra, right? Because that's
sure.
That's a fascinating question. And while you pull that up, I'll let you think about this question, which is from one of our viewers, which is that which reads, the township of Monforte seems lackadaisical when carving up.
Do you prefer this one or the other one that we see yesterday with Mosconi and Conterni as well, or it's enough?
Let's start with that, but I want to read you this question, Alessandro, which is that the question of Monforte seemed lackadaisical when carving up their part of the MGAs. Any chance they'll remedy the oversized crews into more precise divisions? Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
Me la ripeti in italiano che ho fatto fatica a capirti.
Che gli MGA sono molto grandi a Monforte, se c'è qualche possibilità che loro cambieranno e...
No, definitely.
Okay.
No way.
No way. So that was a good answer.
No, I don't think so. Otherwise, it will start a civil war inside the appellation. No. I would like that they can change their mind, but I prefer that they not change their mind about this, because if you start to change the boundaries of the MGA, so everybody around the MGA will start to ask the same. So, no, but Boscareto is smaller. This is called in another way. So it's a real mess. It's better to leave everything as it is.
Okay, so then let me ask you another question just related to the images that we have. Is there a north-south compass on the website so you can get oriented, or how do we know where north is when we look?
No, there is not a way, but there is a read me please section.
Okay.
It's not a simple read me section, but it's a read me please.
Okay.
Because I know I am the first. When in a website there is a read me section, I never read this section. Definitely. But as far because I know that nobody read this section, I have added please read me, because inside this section there are many information that can help you to move and understand the region. It's a little bit difficult to give you the north every time, the south, but if you use why in every almost in every image you have some reference point. For example, Diano d'Alba, why it's not so important to place Diano d'Alba, the village of Diano d'Alba, on this picture, because it's outside the appellation, you know. But if you want to orient yourself in this picture, you have to know that Diano d'Alba is to the north, okay, and in particular to the northeast, okay. And Bernardina, why I placed Bernardina? For the same reason. Bernardina is outside the appellation, but is to the north. And Bernardina, in many pictures, and when you are in the region as well, driving with your car, you can see Bernardina from everywhere, almost every place. So every time you know that when you are looking at Bernardina, you are looking to the north. And if you are looking to the village of Diano d'Alba, you are looking to the east and northeast. So I know that is difficult, but it's a way to push the reader to better understand the region. If you start to understand this reference point, it's fantastic, because you don't need nothing else. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the maps don't have north south, but they've got these
Yes.
signposts that we're supposed to look at.
Exactly. But because this is why the map is a very different tool compared to this kind of if you go, for example.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second, just so that people know. So La Bernardina, that's where the Ceretto winery is, right? Just outside of Alba?
Yeah. Is inside Alba.
Yeah, inside.
And in the past, I wrote this in the website, but in the book as well. The south-facing vineyard of Bernardina were used to produce Barolo. Beppe Cola, the former owner of Prunotto, used this the grape of this vineyard to produce Barolo. And at the beginning of the delimitation of the appellation, he went, because he was charged with some other people to delimit the area of Barolo. He went to the owner of Bernardina, asking them, "Oh, if you want, I can place Bernardina inside the appellation, because I can testify that I have used your grapes to produce Barolo. So if you want, we can be inside the appellation." And the answer of the old woman there was, "Oh, go away. This is not interesting for you. I don't want to be there inside the appellation." That's why Bernardina is not included. And maybe 5-6 years later, the daughter of this woman went to Beppe Cola, asking, "Well, Mr. Cola, is it possible to be included now in the appellation?" And the answer was, of course, it was no. Yeah. This is the story behind the Bernardina. But going back to the producer breakdown, as you know, inside in the final part, in the final section of my book, you have the black and white map with the producer for each MGA. No? Yes. And of course, they are really interesting because it's easy to use. But in this case, it's even if you put this black and white map on a 3D view, it's not so easy to understand the difference between the different parts of the crew. In this case, where the picture is clear, in my opinion, it's perfect, because you can see exactly that this part here is facing east, okay? And this part is completely to the south, okay? And you can see, I suppose, even better if we go, sorry.
Yes, Alessandro, I just want to let it, so what we're looking at here is...
For example, sorry.
Alessandro, just a second. What we're looking at now, this is a study of the Ginestra area, which is very famous for the wines of Domenico Clerico, Elio Grazzo.
Definitely.
Conterno Fantino, now Diego Conterno. So this is another view, but this is a fantastic.
This is another view, because if you look here, you can say, okay, the Ginestra area that include, as you told before, Clerico, Gavarini, Paiana, and so on. It looks like a ridge, and that's all. Okay. But if you go to this view, you can see that the situation is much more complex, okay? So you can see perfectly that there is a east-facing, southeast-facing part here that I showed you before, but there's an even more east-facing part at the end of the ridge. And then in Ginestra, you have all this area that is north-facing. And this part inside the cru is not used to produce the Barolo. Okay, this is very important because here you have white grapes varieties, you have Dolcetto, but only something for Langhe Nebbiolo. but it's not good for Barolo. And in this image, you can see perfectly the secondary ridge from Payana, okay? Because it is not so small, because if you go back to this view, it seems that Payana is a very, very, very tiny vineyard, okay? But if you go to this one, okay, it's not so tiny. And the exposure is a good exposure as well. It's a little bit lower, it's a little bit more protected compared to the Ginestra, to the heart of the Ginestra, because, oh, there are so many things to say. Ginestra, as you said before, so all this area, okay, there's one, is now included in the MGA Ginestra.
That's remarkable.
But historically, the yellow one is the Ginestra, then you have Payana, then Gavarini, that was not considered a part of Ginestra. Now is included, but Gavarini stands alone. And Grassi as well was not considered part of Ginestra, now is included. And Grassi is not so well known now, but is a very nice area. Maybe not this part, but this part of the area of the Cru is a very nice, very, very nice one. I don't know whether I have this one, this another. Oh, it's so slow today. Okay.
That's an incredible shot. You can see the hotel, the Boscaretto Hotel there.
Yeah, sure. But that's why I said before that this website is for the people, curious people, persone curiose.
Yeah.
Because when you are here, you have, okay, I have understood the Ginestra and so on. Then you start to move, oh, there is Boscaretto, and this is Francia.
Yeah, that's Francia.
This is Francia. This is the vineyard of Francia. It's facing Moscone. And you have Badarina. You can see that Badarina is exactly on the other side of the other side of the ridge of Serralunga, because here we are in Serralunga, okay? In Serralunga, this is Falletto, okay? And that's why at the beginning I said, with the nice picture of Arborina with the snow was very, very nice, but it's static, and you cannot place Arborina in the context. And here you can place Ginestra perfectly in the context, because it is on the other side of the valley of Monforte and Serralunga. And Falletto is exactly on the other side of the valley. You have Falletto, Ornato, Bricolina, and all the other.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah. May I say something about the structure of the website?
Yes, we have just a few minutes. So
yeah, very, very fast.
Yeah,
you know that I can go very fast. So anyway, I talk about the read me please section, and
yes.
Please again, please read this section because it's very, very important. This is the how-to section, and you have some indication how to use the little menu here, because you can zoom with this one, but you can zoom with the mouse as well, or with your finger if you are using an iPad or a phone. Then this is how to rotate tool that makes rotate the image. But I place this tool, but I prefer to use the mouse because you can do what you want. Then you have the thumbnail tool to show the thumbnails. And here, even more important, is the one that can choose between the different way to see the image. In some cases, I've chosen this one, because you can see perfectly the name. But in some cases, the fisheye view is better because you can see better the 3D view. Then this section is very, very important to me, and is completely new. Oh, I have stolen getting the lay of the land. Sorry, Antonio. But this is very important because what I ask to the reader, the user, is to follow at the beginning, really to follow this order. Read me please, how to, territory, And because there is a reason why I've placed all this section side by side in this order. And the territory, with this image, you start to learn the difference inside the area. And again, you have Bernardina, Diano d'Alba, the Bricco del Denta. Every time I explain that Novello, it means if you are looking towards Novello, it means that you are looking to the south, okay? And you have to learn this. If you are looking to Bricco Giubellini and Cascina Francia as well, you are looking to the south. Then you have this part. It's my favorite, one of my favorites. It's about landscape and geology, because in my seminar, I said every time that people, to understand the soil, goes in the vineyards looking for truffles, you know, and this is not the best way to understand the geology and the structure of the appellation. The best way is to look at the landscape. For example, I've given this example. Why at the top of the ridge you have always these woods 1, 2, 3, and 4? There is a reason, because the geology is a stratification in this area. So when the floor of the sea started to sink toward northwest, all the Diano sandstone layers came to the surface, and all these woods here sign the transition between the Diano sandstones and the Sant'Agata fossili Mars. So you don't have to read a geological map to understand this. You have only to look at the landscape, and everything is explained here in the landscape and geology with other, for example, this one is very important, because if you look at the landscape, you can understand the difference between not only the geology, but the soils. Because if you look at this hill, these are the hills of Annunziata, you can see that are rounded hills. And this shape of the hill is very typical of the Sant'Agata fossili Mars. If you go back to this image, you can see that this part on the boundary between Diano sandstones and the formation of Serralunga. Oh my goodness! The formation of Serralunga is
Serravagliano.
Yeah, Serravagliano, but it's called oh my goodness.
La formazione di Lecchio.
Oh, formazione di Lecchio. That's it. That's it. You can see that the hills are much more steeper compared to the area of Annunziata that are around it. So this is why, for me, it's very, very important to read all this section, because you start to understand better the region. Then you have...
Great. Alessandro, we're going to hit our time limit. So I'm going to ask you to take down the website for a second so we can... I'm just going to ask you to stop sharing your screen for a second.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sure.
Just for technical purposes. And I'm going to ask you one last question real quick, which is, well, thank you very much. This is like unbelievably great. Obviously, we could talk for hours. Will you eventually have this for Barbaresco too?
I have planned.
Okay. And what about, somebody asked about Northern California. So that's in the works too, I hope, eventually.
Yeah, sure. I'm here.
Okay, great.
I have to remember this is for subscribers.
Yes, that's right. And so that's the last thing I was going to say is that this is a subscriber website, and all you have to do is go to the website and figure out how to subscribe to it. But it's, I mean, I think unbelievable value for anybody who wants to learn about the region. First of all, when I look at your images, it makes me want to be there so much.
And this is one of the reasons I've decided to make this website.
But on top of that, for anybody who's seriously interested in learning about wine or buying wine, the subscription fee is absolutely minimal compared to what you learn and how it enriches our understanding of wine. So thank you for your time, Alessandro. We'll do this.
Thank you, Antonio. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you so much.